5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim Eskin, and on behalf of Eskin Fundraising Training, it's a privilege and a pleasure to invite you to our number 71, our 71st nonprofit webinar. This year, or this topic is the year-end push, and I'm going to brag in just about a minute about our special guest speaker. I'm not very good at math, but if I figured it right, we got 42 days left, okay, for the end of calendar 2021. And why is that so important? Alan and I are going to be discussing it. It's amazing. Somewhere over 30% of all annual giving happens during the month of December. And also 12% happens on the 3 final calendar days. So this is a very rich time. I'm a frustrated football coach. I put a few scratchings on our board. And so rather than lecture you what you should have done 4 months ago, Allie's going to spotlight a lot of things you can do right now with 42 days left. But she's also saying, probably at the end of this discussion, always happened to me, it's like December 31 and the team says, well, this is how we're going to do it next year with the benefit of more time. So it's my pleasure to introduce Allie Sterling, who I've been watching from afar for a while now. And Allie, it is just a great privilege to collaborate with you. She founded Allie Sterling Philanthropy, was it 2007?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once a time I get it right. And I was looking at your mission statement or interview, and you say it's all about leadership. Could you expand on that for a little?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Jim. I'm super excited to be here, flattered and honored that you asked me to join on the 71st episode of this. So you created something pretty spectacular for the nonprofit community. We are appreciative of you and what you're doing. So
Thank you.
yeah, leadership. I mean, it really is all about leadership, right? In the small and the big ways as we professionally, navigate the world. And there's many factors that create success within campaigns and within fundraising. At the end, my experience, and I'm sure yours too, has shown you that truly, having great leaders, having people who care and can motivate others in fundraising. I mean, that's definitely where it's at. That's a critical piece. I can work with a lot of things, in the absence of other things, but absence of leadership, it's a tough one.
Yeah. By the way, I want to introduce Michael Argent, who's our producer with Game Day Media. Michael, could you explain to our audience, they can come in, Al and I have an understanding, they can come in with their own question or comment anytime they want. There are 2 ways to do that. The old-fashioned way is to type it in the chat space. I would prefer if you come on camera and share your comment or question. By the way, Allie, you know everything about Toledo. You've lived there about all your life. And of course, you know what I'm thinking about. If I was to fly out, but I'm not going to, but tomorrow to Toledo and wanted you to take me for some type of food I probably couldn't get in another city, what type of food is Toledo friendly?
Middle Eastern Lebanese food. We have an incredible community that is, we've got some of the best, and I've traveled a lot, some of the best Lebanese restaurants around. So I would definitely take you for some Middle East. Yeah, that or Indian. We've got some really amazing Indian restaurants too. Yeah. So we have a lot more cultural restaurants. I think we're known for Tony Pacos. So people think of Toledo and think of Tony Pacos, but it's really the under the radar Lebanese and other ethnicities.
This is sort of my why is there air question, but what do you think we really learned about philanthropy in 2020 and 2021? Because we were pushed to do things we've never done before.
Yeah, I mean, I think we learned it's possible, right? We had the biggest giving year ever.
Yeah.
So, we show up. We absolutely come out when we need to. I think that collectively, our nation cares and is responsive, especially to a sense of urgency. And we dug deep. We dug really deep, and not just because of COVID, but because of social injustice issues. And there's protest giving happening. But yeah, $471 billion record.
Not
We
chopped liver.
do it.
I'm amazed of all you have going on, but you wrote a wonderful book titled 37, and to share your experience as a woman entrepreneur and also to help others start. And you also have an organization called Alley Sterling Launch. But can you talk a little about your book?
Yeah. Thanks. There it is. It's kind of crazy. It's one of those feats that I'm still surprised today that I did that. I had the help of a coach, and I think that's what made it possible because I had attempted to write a book many times and, left to my own devices. There was always something more important that got in
Right.
the way, but nothing like an accountability partner, right? To make something happen. And yeah, I wrote it because, I think there's a lot of things we don't learn in business school about how difficult it can be to launch a business. I mean, you can have the best business plan in the world, but we neglect some of the social and emotional components of launching, that kind of walking out into those small little fragile limbs of a tree that, can break really easily, which I think is what amounts to a lot of the failure rate in small businesses. It's lonely. People who you thought were, going to be supportive of you, including some of your best friends and maybe family members, aren't. So it takes a lot of, the adage is old, but it takes thick skin to do that. So yeah, so I wanted to tell my story about the issues that I faced and kind of how I personally surmounted those obstacles and I think break some of the myths around business ownership. It's entrepreneurism is an amazing thing. I teach on the subject at a university as well. Teach on women in entrepreneurship. And it's like minority entrepreneurship. It's different than it's changing. It's changing a
Yeah.
lot. So yeah. So I wanted to just share my story with others, if only that maybe one person would read it and say, okay, like I think I've got a solution for, or when this happens, I'll be prepared because it is not stuff that we learn in our MBA programs or in our, do it yourself books. So, and it's different for the female.
Yeah. We have a lot of questions, but I want to get to really a bottom line up front. Then I'm going to do some context. Okay, we're other, nonprofits in a perfect world should have started their year-end push months ago. But guess what, Allie, right? The world, particularly for the nonprofit sector, is not perfect. So if we have in our audience some executive directors, some development committee chairs, some board chairs, and they go, wait, we got to get working on end of year. What's a good starting point for tomorrow?
I think it is best and highest use of time, right? So it doesn't matter if we're fundraising year end or if we're trying to, complete a half marathon. I mean, it's really just focus, eliminate distractions, best and highest use of time. Because I start out my day with a laundry list of things to do, and sometimes I get distracted by the things that are easier. They may not be the best and highest use of my time, but I still tackle them anyway. At the end of the day, I didn't accomplish the stuff the big things that I needed to move. So I think fundraisers, especially small shops, right, who are wearing lots of hats, it's easy to get distracted, and it's important that if the goal is to, hit the revenue, numbers for the end of the year, to contact the people that need to be contacted who haven't given, the deck has to be cleared for that, and we have to ask permission from our supervisors and from those who are, leading our shops to say, like, do I have permission to do this? Because I'm going to be held responsible in the end for these goals. And so Yeah, so I think focus is the most important thing, and because it's unfortunate that we as a country give excuse me, give so much in only one part of the year. You know, it's just it is. It's I wish we could change that. I wish we could balance that. We could be realizing more revenue throughout the year. And there are a lot of
Yeah.
organizations that are doing that. So they don't have to be so dependent on this crush,
Yeah.
this crush that happens
Right.
right now. But until we can change that, and I think that's pretty baked into our DNA, it's up to us to clear the plate and to focus, and best and highest use wins.
Right. Hey, at this point, I wanted to say our audience is made up of executive directors, directors of development, board chairs, volunteers, donors. I'd rather have you come on camera, but for this one exception, can everybody type in the chat space their name, their role, and their nonprofit, and also your city? I had some exciting. We're trying to crack the 50. You know, I've had reservations from people overseas. I forget, somebody like in England said, but it was 2 a.m. I said, Jim and Allie are worth staying up to 2 a.m. Do we have some folks typing in? What cities do we have, Michael?
All right, let me read some of these. We've got Annie Wyhagen, I could be saying that wrong, Director of Mission Advancement for the Society of the Sacred Heart in St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay, we love St. Louis. Okay.
We've got Matt Reedy, San Antonio Decisions.org, CTO. We've got Margie Hellshine with America Connected.
Right, Boca Raton.
Boca Raton, yeah. Christine Crowley, Executive Director of the Bernie Community Theater in Bernie, Texas. Diana Hoyt in Phoenix, consultant, trainer, author.
So
Michael
we have
Rubin.
some geographical balance. Allie, it's not just Texas. And at this point, we have a mantra. And we'd like everybody, and this and that. After this, I want you on camera, no typing, but type in nonprofit strong, because Al Hartman, what are we? I can't hear you. Mike Davis, what are we? They're not taking off their mutes.
All right.
Okay, Allie,
Can you hear me now? We're nonprofit.
Yeah, what
strong.
are we? What are we?
Nonprofit strong.
Mike, what are we? Yes. Hey, Michael Rubin, how are you?
Oh, Jim, we're nonprofit strong.
Right. And Allie, okay, what are we?
Nonprofit strong, it appears. Yeah.
Right. And I'm Michael Rubin has, like me, been in the business. If we added up our years, it get to be a little too many. Out of St. Louis, he has a full service fundraising and advancement agency. And he is, thank you. I have done every program. It's something like 142 if it was a workshop or a webinar. And I always like Wednesday, but Michael's allowing me to make a exception, and he's going to give a presentation on the joy of giving on Giving Tuesday, November 30th. And Michael, I think just for our audience, you know, you and I have been doing this for a while. The point I think we need to get across is I observe donors, particularly big donors, get more satisfaction from the giving process than the recipients.
Yeah, I mean, it's why do it if it doesn't bring you joy?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kind of remind myself of that all the time. And I try to remind donors of that all the time, because we get too hung up in the money part in the transaction, and it's about what you're making possible. So just a good reminder for everybody.
Okay, I'm going to call one other audible on Allie. What have you found the experience of fundraising in person versus virtual? So I would ask you, you know, virtual can handle this, but you really need in person for this. But what are you seeing works virtually and what falls up kind of short?
Yeah, I've seen, I've been surprised. My clients have reported that they've been very successful in virtual fundraising and one-on-one, major gift solicitations, cultivations, that whole process. They found that um, people are more available, right? So I think it's eliminated some of the, oh, we're going to be out of town or whatever, because people now are comfortable with this, the technology, they're integrating it into their personal and professional lives, and so the availability has increased. The conversations, I think people in the beginning were uncomfortable. I think now, like us here, right? We have a cadence that is, yeah, that allows us to have a genuine conversation. Is it as good as in person? I don't think so, but I think it's darn close.
Yeah.
So I guess the silver lining, my clients have, shown that now for those organizations though that are reticent to do one-on-one fundraising in general, they were reticent before COVID.
Right.
They're using it as a reason and an excuse that
Yeah.
they're not consistently being successful. And so, but those, yeah, the innovative ones have grasped it, and they're excelling.
A lot of end of year fundraising means going back to some of our donors and friends who have already given during 2021. Can you share the approach for asking a donor to make a second or even third gift?
I think I think donors who love a mission are expecting that conversation, and they're expecting that cultivation. I don't think that they feel that it's too much. Again, if it's an active, back and forth, donors who are giving actively, then to continue to ask them actively. Again, it's a courtship, right? It has to be genuine. It has to be authentic, not transactional, as Mike said. It has to be, truly. But as long as those conditions are in place, then people are, I personally am waiting for, the next ask, as long as the conditions around both genuine communication, impact, right, and results, and making sure that we're doing those sorts of things. So yeah, now the problem is when we aren't doing those things and we're just blindly, it's like putting more direct mails out there, or just that kind of
do something.
Yeah, that's not effective. So I don't think that's changed.
Yeah. Hey, we're taught not to fast, and that is to thank a donor and then ask for another gift in the same conversation. Do you have any recommendations on how our nonprofit friends can ask and then in the fourth breath get in a solicitation?
I am a bit of a traditionalist on this, and feel that it is, probably in most situations, not the best course of action to ask during a thank you. I think that takes in every,
And I'm talking to direct mail, email, not just talking, but thank you letters, and then say, P.S. if you'd like to give more.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I really think you have to put distance between.
Can we give a fist? I'm a very strong advocate myself. Allie, put it up there. Put up your fist. I feel exactly. And you probably don't have to wait too much time.
No, right.
It could be the next week or something, or even sooner, right?
It's risky. It's really risky. So the research shows, Penelope Burke's great work shows that over solicitation is one of the first reasons people turn off and turn out. So I wouldn't risk it. That's for sure. And I also think it's just I don't know. It's just bad manners. So I tend to be a traditionalist. So around that.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Jim, can I ask you a question?
Sure. Who we have? Yeah, Mike Davis, go ahead.
Mike Davis. Allie, at the beginning of 2021, I put a box next to where I get my mail and everything. And what I've done is through the entire year, I've collected, all the request letters and things that I've received for the year.
I hope
So,
you secured
and I've,
a storage locker
I'm
and
going
put it all
through
in.
them and then make my, so. I'm
Hey, Mike, we're
sorry,
having trouble. We're having trouble hearing you.
But,
Right?
but that you're in a different part of the world than the rest of us.
Well,
What do you think about that over the long? Let me rephrase the question.
Okay.
What is this an appropriate thing to do for the course of the year? And there's a lot of repetitive mail that comes almost monthly. And is that a waste of money, or is that are we accruing funds through that effort?
Unfortunately, the numbers, I don't do a lot of direct mail work.
I'm not sure if you understood the question or I understood the question.
I think I do. Direct mail it appears to the person receiving it that it can be very expensive, right? Because it's multiple sends and things that they include, and is it worth it for a $10 gift, a $25 gift? And again, I'm not an expert in direct mail, but my colleagues who I work alongside in the Giving Institute, it's worth it. It's
Yeah.
lucrative. Even with a really low return rate, it can be incredibly lucrative. And again, first of all, human nature is that it takes us a lot of attempts to be responsive, myself included. It might take 3 or 4 for me to actually and that includes something that I really care about. It's just toggling back and forth between work and kids and everything else. It might take 3 or 4 tries to get me to go, oh, that's right, I do want to give to you this year. But it's the math works out to the advantage. And then it's what we do with that new donor, right? It's not the first gift that's the most important one, it's the second gift. So like 71% of us won't give again. And because there's just it's a one-off gift, and getting that second gift is the big important part. So some organizations do an extraordinary job of investing in the work that it takes to make the second gift happen, and that's where the payoff becomes.
a couple of months ago, we had Katie Lord on donor communications, and you talked about direct mail. Our best information right now is 90% of direct mail gets open compared to 20 or 30% for email.
Interesting. That's fascinating. And not surprising now that I think about it. Okay.
And millennials in particular, they're discovering this thing called snail mail. It's kind of fun. Hey, if your nonprofit is running behind its goal in 2021, what do you recommend as a strategy for messaging?
Well, a strategy, first is to go back to those who haven't given, right? Just making sure that we have, everybody who gave last year has given again this year. So from a messaging perspective, if I've already done that work and I've made sure that those closest to me have given, messaging, we know that effectiveness is urgency, right? Closing the gap. It's the good old fashioned thermometer notion, right? That like, we're this close to goal, you can make it happen kind of thing. It's testimonials, it's influencers, it's having, people who can give testimony to the value of making that gift and the why that they've done it. So it's unfortunate because it's really close to the end now, but I would make sure that I had everybody in that had given before, that needs one more reminder to make that happen, and I'd reach out personally.
Let's flip that question around. Your nonprofit is in the fortuitous position of running ahead of goal for 2021. What should their end of year messaging be like?
Well, I would just keep raising the money and celebrating an amazing success come first quarter of next year, right? So, that's continuing to go. That's continuing to close all of those gifts, increase, the momentum that's already naturally happening, and celebrate the heck out of it come next year, and set a higher goal for 2022. That just shows you that, you've got the potential to raise a lot more money in the next year. So that's a good preliminary strategic planning insight right there.
You emphasize that this is the time to go to those closest to the mission. And that would be, your staff, your board of directors, your existing major donors. Talk a little about strategies for going to the inner circle.
Well, ideally, we have champions within those affinity groups, if you will.
Mhm.
So, ideally, you've got mini campaigns, right? It's that campaign mindset that's so effective in fundraising. So, being able to create systems and structures that are well oiled within each of those affinity groups. So, at this point in time, you're going to that board, captain, that, young professional influencer who's in charge of that group, the volunteers, the staff, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, no matter how many constituents you have. And those folks are actually checking in and they're saying, yep, we're at 88%, we're working the program, we're working the strategy we put into place, earlier this year. So leadership. I mean, I believe that we have these affinity groups around us, and the more we create structure and leadership within those affinity groups, because otherwise it's a daunting task for
Yeah.
our offices to blast out to these groups. We need to allow them to to lead, allow them to create that strategy that's going to be really specific to their particular constituent. I mean, a board member versus a young professional versus a volunteer group, they're going to organize their efforts very differently. So yeah, so just organizing it, making it happen, and by this time, hopefully, you're getting really close to your sub goals on all of
Yeah.
those mini campaigns.
Okay, this is real world now. A lot of nonprofits give their staffs 1 or maybe 2 of the final weeks of December off. Okay. And on the other hand, we know that donors, that's the time that donors are making their gifts. So what do you suggest to nonprofits who give staff a week or 2 off at the end of the year, but they're in a position to take calls or emails from donors?
Yeah, we have to. I mean, if in my experience, and when the work that I used to do before I started the firm, we were pretty much not given too much time off around the end of the year from a development staff perspective. We were the ones that were kind of chained to the desk and and managing the phones and counting the money and everything else. And so if someone's giving out some time for people to do that, which is terrific, I suppose. Although I hope that they are monitoring really closely.
I agree. And particularly your directors of development, you should be getting their cell phone out, their email, because boy, I've been there. When donors want to know how to make it up, what fund.
You want to transfer stock at the last minute.
Yeah.
And don't.
So, I mean, the cell phone is 7/24.
Yeah, we always gave time off right after, the new year. So,
okay, no fundraiser can do their job without being very conversant in good communications. So what are your recommendations to the nonprofits out there that can do multimedia messaging?
It's essential. I mean, absolutely essential. We have to be communicating on as many levels as possible, because, as you said earlier, we have younger generations who are excited about opening direct mail. Who knew, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who knew that was going to happen? And I feel inundated with the emails I receive, but I might actually pay attention to a podcast or honestly a text that comes in. I mean, and then that's going to become, something that we get inundated and, and we're overstimulated by that. So, but at any given moment, people are in, a different, a different zone of what they respond to, react to, and observe. So, yeah, we, unfortunately for our budgets, we have to be on multi levels from from communication perspective. It's just it's never going to change. It won't. I mean, QR codes, right? So now that's, everything I see now, I get,
Yeah.
a postcard, a reminder about the annual fund, and it's got a QR code on it, which is fabulous. Because it makes me laugh too, because pre-COVID, no one really knew how to work a QR code, and now everyone does, because that's how we ordered food, at a restaurant. So what a easy thing to just put on a postcard that, I got a couple of them today in the mail, and it would be easy for me to just, do and give that way versus going online. Who knew that there'd be an easier way than going online, but there's going to continue to be easier ways.
Right.
Easier and easier.
Hey, what are best practices for engaging board members in the end of year fundraising?
And Jim, are you talking about like their own giving as a board, or assisting in the overall annual?
Yeah, no, I would go, the give and the get.
Yeah. So let's assume then that the board's already all in, and they've had their own, their own campaign for giving, and they've been successful there. I just, firmly believe that the best way to engage most board members is within the stewardship and recognition and thank you and everything else. I'm a pragmatic person, and I have worked with way too many boards to be telling people, yes, you should turn your board members into fundraisers right now. It's not going to happen. I mean, which board members of yours actually like to fundraise. We all have a handful, and we are blessed to have that handful. So maybe utilize them, but quite frankly, to expect a board to start fundraising alongside you at year end, that's really probably not going to happen effectively. So instead, meet them where they are, and where they're, and what they enjoy, and where they're comfortable, and start the stewardship piece, right? So start having a couple of our clients, every time there's a gift over $250 or over $100, depending on the organization, each board member gets an email that has a couple names to connect with and to say thank you. So I'm a bit of a realist when it comes to, it's not that board members it's not possible. I'm a board member. I mean, and I'm a fundraiser. But I also know that right now, if the organizations I serve on their boards, if they contacted me and asked if I could do some follow-up calls for some year-end gift pushes, I would do a couple, but it would be a lot to ask, so anyway, that might not have met the mark on your question, but it's my real answer.
I like it. Hey, what are your recommendations on nonprofits investing in cards and other elements to wish happy holidays?
Yeah, I think that I think we know who our audience is for that, and I think there's some people who that matters a lot too, because it means something. It means that we have a connection with them. It means that we're going off cycle, and we're, expressing, wishes, etc. I do think that we all do it at the same time of the year, and so to stand out a little bit, maybe to wish Happy New Year's, or Thanksgiving, or something else, I think is would be probably a little bit more impactful, a little bit more bang for our buck, because we all know what happens, right? Beginning like right after Thanksgiving, how much of our inbox is going to be holiday wishes. So it registers for some people, it matters. But I'm not, I'm not sure doing it all at the same time again of the year is getting the results that we might want from that. So it's something. It's a touch.
Right.
For people. Yeah.
Right. By the way, Michael, are there anybody else that I have more questions? We can go to Tuesday. But does our learning community have some questions they'd like to share, either typing it in the chat space, or better yet, joining us on screen?
Yeah, I haven't seen any questions in the chat, but like Jim said, if any of you have any questions, now would be the time to unmute your mic and hop on and ask. Oh, it looks like
Al Hartman, do you have a question?
Yes. First of all, Ms. Gerling, thank you so much for your comments, but I'm wondering about mailing. Who do you recommend signing? Can have the letter signed by a donor saying how much all of your donations are making this make us reach our goals or helping us make our the impact that we need to make. I think people may be more willing to give a second thought to a letter signed by somebody other than a staff member, because you just sort of expect the letters from the staff member.
Right. Oh, I love that, Al. I think that would be highly effective. Absolutely. So yeah, I think we're used to, who we think it's going to be from. And you know what the thing is though, that I always worry about, and I work with my clients on, is so say you have this amazing donor who's signing the letter, and that's fabulous because it's just, again, not expected, and it's going to be a much different personal story, etc. But what if no one opens the letter, right? So that's always been my concern, is you've got this amazing thing inside the envelope, but like, what if someone doesn't open it? So
hey, I'm going to butt in because I'm sort of make decisions. What are best practices on getting envelopes opened?
So here's what we find works a lot. On the envelope, on the address, handwrite that person's last name, just the last name. And now you can't do this for 10,000 letters that are going out, right? But you can do this for a certain percentage, something that is just personal. So that way they like go, oh, it's coming from XYZ, university, but it has a piece of a handwriting on the top that says whatever. And so that's helpful. The other thing that's helpful if you are doing a mass mailing, a really large size, is something that's printed on the envelope on the front that says a special message from, or a donor story from, or, because increasing the likelihood of opening that letter is just the most important thing. So anything we can do, but I love, Al, your idea of having it be from the donor, have the thank you be from the donor or the ask from the donor.
I wanted to go, I'm on record, by far, you can't do it for everyone, but handwritten notes to your major gift donors sent as soon as possible from the CEO, from the director of development, because how many handwritten notes do you receive during the day? Not many, huh?
No. Bonnie, did have a question or a comment? I thought I heard maybe.
Thank you. Hey, Bonnie, are you there?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, no. Oh, gosh, I didn't know I was on.
Yeah, this is like candid camera.
I'm listening. Yeah, I totally agree. Well, I used to do direct mail, a bunch of it in my early career, and I'm old now. But we always did something personal. I was really good at getting responses because I would say, like sense of immediacy, open it now because, or your vote's important, or, if it was a vote or an election or something. And I try to make a way that it incentivized them to open the stupid envelope.
Yes.
Because it was really important. And then I'd use color. I'd use different colors. If it was a campaign, I'd use different colors for the envelopes. All sorts of things like that. Anything to kind of give it a fresh look, but personal, really personal.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm not good at a lot of things, but I am good at writing handwritten notes of thank you to everybody who donates.
Bonnie, God bless you. I think that's the most powerful way to communicate right now.
It's about the only thing I can really do because I'm just one person and I don't have a staff at all. So
well, I'm going to tell you, whoever you're writing those notes to, I bet your organization's getting more handwritten notes from you than all these other organizations.
Could be.
A lot of giving is online. And sometimes, Allie, our systems are easy to use. And nothing makes me more mad, okay? This is experiencing a clunky and difficult online giving process. What are your recommendations? I'm making sure you don't have one.
Yeah, right. Oh gosh. And well, first of all, we don't test this stuff enough. It's interesting how we select a platform and we don't have people testing what it's like to experience it on the user side. I always recommend to our clients, have somebody make a gift to your organization. Have like your best friend or someone that will do it.
Do a test.
Do a test. What's it like to contribute to this nonprofit? If I'm given 25, what's the experience like? How is it? If we did more of that once a year, have a couple volunteers, just give $10. It doesn't matter how much, just to test what the process is like, because that
Beautiful.
experience is absolutely critical. Jim, you're totally right. The minute if I get into something and it's frustrating, or it ends up just leaving me with a bad taste in my mouth, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the end of that. Yeah.
You know, if you go back 20 years, they used to call that mystery shoppers.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
right.
companies would go to a store and see how they were treated.
We need to do much more of that in our industry, and it would be fun to do, and it's the best. It's easy. It's inexpensive and easy.
Yeah. Hey, what are your thoughts on raising money at holiday parties?
At holiday parties, like maybe you mean groups of donors or board members or community folks. Yeah, I think it's a wonderful, in lieu of a hostess gift at a minimum. I've seen a couple of those invitations with like, don't bring me, a silly holiday gift. Instead, be prepared to take something off my tree that is, a gift to a nonprofit or an adoption of, of something. And so I love the idea of that, but I love it separate from holiday parties, for birthdays, right? All sorts of in lieu of. I think that's what we should be, in lieu of a wedding gift. I've seen those too. I mean, I think charity and giving has crept into every crevice of our world in a really powerful way that is making us all very hyper aware of what we can do and the options we have that are not that have an impact. They make a difference in ways that we could only have hoped 10 years ago to have. Oh, I think someone has a question, maybe.
Yay, Christine, do you have a question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. I've been lurking. I'm on a desktop with no camera, but I'm on my phone. So we have had a number of fundraising efforts toward the end of the year.
By the way, Ellie, this is Bernie Community Theater.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And I've known Jim a long time. We used to work for the same college district.
Oh.
So anyway, in September, we did the Big Give, which is a giving day in the San Antonio area. And then in October, we had our own annual fundraiser, which is a talent show called The Hill Country's Got Talent. Two of us have October birthdays, and we did Facebook fundraisers, and we each raised over $1,200.
Wow.
So I'm a little reticent to go out for an end of the year thing when we have been asking, and I'm more inclined at this point, because I'm sick of all the junk mail too that fills up my inbox, both online and snail mail. I'm thinking that we might do a push for Valentine's Day. Get through the holidays and see how much people love us.
I love that.
Because we've done end of the year letters in the past, and frankly, the return wasn't impressive. I didn't think it was worth the postage, and it's a fairly small, and we would hand address, which I think is probably more engaging with the person who gets it than just a slick piece of something with a label on it.
Yes.
And
Christine,
with
I
the
think
change,
Go ahead. Sorry.
The change in the tax laws has made people like me, who still is a fairly generous donor given my resources, but not worth it when you go to do the return. So I'm afraid we've lost some people for whom the tax incentive has gone away. I don't know if you could address that.
Christine, that's a great question. I'd like to build on that, because we got 42 days left, and you said something, what was it? The best and highest use.
Yeah.
So let's just say we have a $50,000 ask into Mike Davis. Okay. And we started, we started during the summer. What are your thoughts? Because that's where the money is, in major gifts. Okay. In bringing closure some solicitations that are 1, 2, 3 months old.
Oh my gosh, yes, I think they're critical to circle back. This is where, as a consultant, will come in, and I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a campaign or major gift, you know, just about when you're ready to give up on somebody is just about when they're ready to give. So truly, I mean, in the most tactful and respectful way, unless you have been told not to go back to somebody who you've been cultivating, and you've got them to a point where it's in their decision, it's in their ability to make that decision at this point in time, and you've worked on it. We need to go back. There's just too much risk of, leaving that card value on the table, or them at the last minute making a decision to give to someone else. So I always say, go back unless there's a reason not to. Make sure to circle back, most especially this time of the year, because I have had all these examples coming in daily. I just got a text a few minutes ago from one of our clients who they just sent an annual appeal letter, like the regular appeal, but that was the reason that they took their IRA distribution and made that contribution. So it does, it's sometimes not what the ask is in the letter or in the direct mail or the email. It's just the ping, right? It's that nudge, like, oh my gosh, that's right. I forgot that Christine's been, asking me about this major gift, and I have not gotten back to her. So there's utility in our reminders, and there's utility in those sometimes obnoxious, letters we get in the mail, because they can remind people of something bigger. Including this year, we've got a lot of people who aren't taking their IRA distributions, and they're instead making contributions with them. That's shown up a lot.
I mean, the tax code is very, very friendly right now to philanthropy. You said before too, make sure you have, I know it's so important to have 100% giving from the board. And, each board member is going to be asked to give a personally significant give. And a personally significant would be very different between Allie, myself, and Jeff Bezos. But you want to talk how bringing closure, your board needs to have credibility. They have to give themselves.
Yes. And, I think that it's almost become too commonplace to say, 100% giving. When I first started out, that was a big deal. People say, oh, 100% giving. Now that makes a lot of sense. I get it. And now we just, I think the expectation is that that's where the bar is, that there should be 100%. But I think the reason for the 100% is worthwhile to talk about a little bit. It's because you are an investor in the mission, right? It's no different than a investor in a venture capitalist fund, in a small startup, in a mutual fund or something that's on the for-profit side of things. You need people to buy in. That gains credibility. It makes it easier for them to ask other people, of course, to give as well. And as someone else said, it's that, it's your next speaker, Mike Davis, or I'm not sure I've had his name right.
Michael Rubin.
Rubin, thank you. It's teaching the joy of giving.
Yeah.
I remember my first sacrificial gift as a board member. I mean, it was different than like the small gift that I had made in the past. It was a little bigger. And I remember it being sacrificial and how it felt for me to part ways with that amount of money. And after that point in time, I became such a more effective ambassador for that organization because I had skin in the game, So
Absolutely.
Hypercritical. Again, we should be running board campaigns at the beginning of the year, not at the end of the year. It should be something that starts the year out, right? It should have a start time. It should have an end time. It should have a goal amount. It should have chair people. We should have a board, designated person each year that is the new board campaign chair. And that way the pressure's off of the staff for doing that, and it's peer based. So I could go on and on about the amazing things boards can do from a giving perspective.
During our earlier conversations, you said this is the time to be talking to donors, bringing closure to gifts. This is not for already established funding priorities. It is not wise to introduce new funding priorities at the end of the year. Did you expand on that?
Right. Yeah. Now is not the time to start doing new things, to get distracted, to, it's not. It's the time for closure, for making sure that we're having everyone have that opportunity to complete their year the way they want to. So yeah, and what happens sometimes is we end up, my to-do list is a little chaotic looking. So it's easy, right? It's easy to like start paying attention to a few different things, but if our job is to fundraise, I mean, if we are fundraisers and that is our goal, we've got to be laser focused on just one thing.
Hey, we got 42 days left, and I've been guilty as anyone. When you close off the year, it's a great time to debrief with the team. You didn't have enough time to start it early this year, but you sure can start it in 2022.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And even though the money continues to come in, I think that we all experience a lull in our activity right around mid-December, right? We joke in that there's only a couple weeks in November that people are actually kind of actively working, committees are meeting, et cetera, and there's really only like 2 weeks in December. So when there's a little bit of downtime and when we know that we've made all of our calls and all of our appeals are out the door, that is exactly, Jim, what I would want to do is to start to plan out next year, start to plan out those initiatives in the annual fund, how we're going to improve our affinity activity with those groups, right? Start the board campaign earlier. So yeah, it's the best time to do it. It gets a little quiet sometimes, which is nice. It's rare.
Hey, this is another bonus question, but it is a very, very real sentiment that most of us are suffering from computer screen fatigue. Any thoughts how nonprofits can be sensitive to that?
Oh, I would love to learn from anyone else who has solutions or tips or whatever else. I think that I am a public enemy number one in this situation. So I probably don't know, except just again, to take advantage of the lull that will happen here after Christmas, right? And not to just say no. I mean, I've tried to say no a little bit more to meetings, people feeling frantic about fitting stuff in. And it's like, is that really going to, is that gonna be worthwhile? Is that best and highest use? So yeah, we need to get off the screen though. I know my eyesight's even worse for it now. So
I always felt, after you, Jim and Allie, know each other well, maybe to build a relationship that should be virtual, and can be. But then you can switch
Jim,
to phone calls. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead. Hey, Mike, we're having trouble hearing you.
Give us a little bit about your thinking on, if we're talking about virtual special events, because
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up.
We're
glad you brought
special
that up.
event oriented.
Yeah.
Big way, so we've had a lot.
I'm glad you brought that
Now
up.
we need,
Allie, for
well,
a lot of
that's why I'm on
nonprofits,
screen. What the heck, man?
for a lot of nonprofits depend on the gala, the luncheons, special events. Last year, they went virtual and they discovered they actually made more money because their cost was so much lower. What's your thinking now for the year ahead on special events? In person or virtual?
So my colleagues spend more time than I do in this arena. So, what I'm hearing from them is that next year, providing things don't get worse, people are going to want to go back to some semblance of in-person, as they're slowly doing right now, which will be very interesting because you're right. We actually generated more revenue, more profit in our virtual events. But the experience, the mission immersion component was not as good. And so I've talked to someone recently in the event space who said that we are going to probably have to vacillate back and forth between a combination of some things being virtual, maybe smaller, more mission immersion sort of awareness building. I mean, that's been the amazing thing is you can get people who are across the country, donors that would never have come together in person to learn about a new program, to learn about a new outcome of whatever. I mean, like they're all over that as long as it's short and sweet. But yeah, the rise of the special event is back, and I think we're gonna have to do our best to not get in a situation where we are, I don't want to say losing money, but where they are not, they're not as effective for our mission as they could be. So we're swinging back the other way.
By the way, you hear the word relationship a lot. I'm in the relationship building business. I once heard a relationship defined as something you have until something better comes along. And so I like to say our job in the nonprofit is to build friendships. And I think a big difference in a friendship would be, say Mike Davis for the last 10 years has given us a very nice $1,000 gift. And so we go to him this year, could you consider increasing it to 5,000? And he says no. But it's not like the relationship goes away. That's a friendship when you're not just there when they have a check to give.
Right. Mike Davis is very generous. I don't know who this Mike Davis guy is, but
he is. Something, can you talk a little about the importance of celebrating victories? So say you met your 2021 goal. Say you had a very rich December. I don't think we celebrate victories enough.
No, and just having a conversation just actually this morning about this. Fundraisers not only don't celebrate their victories enough, they don't celebrate their art and the science of what they do. They don't talk about what it takes to make things happen behind the scenes. People think that a fundraiser is going to lunch and they're on the phone and they this kind of right, this kind of optically, it looks like we are having a great time. And so I always tell our clients, you have to be your best advocate. You have to be your cheerleader. You have to be telling the rest of the team or the other departments in your organization how hard it is to make something look so effortless, right?
Yes.
And because so not only celebrating the victories, but making sure people know the hard work behind the scenes, what it takes to make those kinds of things happen.
By the way, we got a few minutes left. Are there any other questions from the audience as we do our wrap up, our 2-minute drill? Any other questions from the audience?
I think Margie typed in a question.
Okay, Margie, she's a smart one. Margie.
More of question for Allie. Can you give us your contact information again?
Yep, absolutely. It would just be, my email is just Allie, ALY, @alliesterling.com. So
hey, by the way, in that spirit, we are going to post a short summary because LinkedIn restricts you to 1,300 character spaces, and you'll see in Allie's the name of her firm. And then Michael's going to do a spin drive in about an hour from now. We'll have a tape to share with everybody who registered, and we'll also put it on social media. And as Allie knows, probably more people are going to watch it on demand than watch it live. That's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
And I wanted to close. Maya Angelou had a great saying. She said that people won't remember what you said. They won't even remember what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. So Allie, we like to teach our volunteer and professional fundraisers. Our job isn't that complicated. It is to make the donor prospect seem like they're the most important person in the world, okay? And by the way, Allie, this has been such a great hour. And you know what happens when you do a good job?
What?
We invite you back. So I'll be talking with you and Tara. And again, thank you for the leadership and the energy you have provided the nonprofit sector. Thank you for the leadership and vision you have provided for your sisters who might be considering establishing $1 million business, But I like to leave with a money back guarantee. Your chances of getting the gift go way up when you ask. I guarantee it, folks, you gotta ask. And our thanks again to Allie. So we'll have a short written summary on Facebook and LinkedIn, and then we're going to share the tape, anywhere from 60 to 75 minutes from now. And Allie, again, I'm going to put you on the spot. Let's do this again in 2022, okay?
I would love that. Thank you guys so much. It was just a wonderful time together. So I really appreciate it. And have a wonderful end of the year. Go out strong. My money's on all of you. So yeah, reach out too.
We will see you, Michael, Ruben. We're doing our first ever Tuesday on November 30th, and that's going to be about the joy of giving. And we'll be sending out information and your invitations for that. But also let me thank our learning community, because some are paid and some aren't paid. And what you do each day of the year is you touch, improve, and save lives. Thank you to our nonprofit learning community. You inspire us. So we'll see you on November 30th. And in many time zones, it's almost happy hour. So, Allie, thanks a lot.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Margie.